The Texas sun blazed high over the dusty auction grounds of Buck Peterson's ranch, where rough men in sweat-stained hats leaned on the corral fence, eyes locked on the restless beast inside. Diablo, his name alone drew uneasy laughter and caution. He was power and fury wrapped in muscle, a stallion that had thrown off seasoned bronc riders like paper dolls. Buck Peterson, wide-bellied and sharp-tongued, leaned over the rail, puffing out his chest as he barked, "$1 million, boys! 1 million for the man who can ride him clean. Any takers?" No one moved. Sawyer Kane, Buck's trusted ranch hand, spat tobacco into the dirt, shaking his head. Wilder Boone, an old rodeo legend now gone soft around the middle, stood silent, the memory of his last attempt with Diablo hidden behind tired eyes. In the crowd, Cassidy June, the ranch vet, watched anxiously. She'd begged Buck to retire the animal, but greed spoke louder than reason on Peterson land. Behind the men, half hidden by their shadows, stood a boy so slight he looked like a stray blown in by the wind. Cody Barnes gripped a worn rope in small hands that had known calluses since before he could write his name. He'd ridden an old mare across endless fields, but never anything like the demon snorting dust in front of him. His father, Jack Barnes, would thrash him for being here instead of working the home ranch. But today, Cody's heart beat louder than Jack's harsh words ever could. He stepped forward, pushing past Rhett Maddox, the sheriff's deputy who grabbed for him too late. "Mr. Peterson," Cody called out, voice cracking like dry wood. "I wanna ride Diablo." Laughter erupted. Even Buck threw back his head, slapping the fence with his palm. "Kid, that horse'll turn you into paste." But Cody didn't flinch. Somewhere deep inside, memories of his Mother Mary's soft lullabies steadied him. He thought of Maisie Bell, the girl from the diner who once said he was braver than he knew. Silence fell when Buck, seeing the tension hook the crowd, flicked his wrist. "Open the gate. Let's see if the boy's got an angel on his shoulder." Diablo tossed his head, eyes wild as flame. Cody's boots dragged through the dirt as he stepped closer, humming under his breath like he did for Buttercup back home. The world narrowed to horse and boy, fear and fragile hope dancing on a thin rope of trust. And as Diablo lunged, a roar of dust and hooves swallowed them both. Cowboys cursed, women gasped, and somewhere behind the fence, Cheyenne Hart, the young reporter, raised her camera. In that split second before chaos, the crowd saw something impossible. The wildest horse in Texas pausing, just for a boy with nothing but a dream and a stubborn heart to hold him steady. The crowd at Buck Peterson's ranch exploded in gasps and hollers as Diablo spun in the dust, testing the tiny figure clinging to his mane. Cody's legs gripped tighter with every buck, his body thrown forward then slammed back, yet somehow he stayed seated. From the fence, Cassidy June clutched the wooden rail so hard her knuckles went white. She'd seen cowboys twice Cody's size carried off in stretchers, but this boy seemed to bend with Diablo's rage instead of fighting it head-on. Sawyer Kane spat out a curse under his breath. "Damn kid's got a death wish." Rhett Maddox, beside him, frowned deeper than the lines on his weathered forehead. "Or a miracle in his pocket." They both flinched when Diablo twisted so sharply that dust blinded everyone within 10 yards. High above the chaos, Buck Peterson laughed, though unease tugged at his grin. $1 million was meant to be safe in his pocket, a showman's stunt to lure bidders for his lesser stock. But now, whispers rose among the men. What if the boy does it? Behind the back row, Cheyenne Hart lowered her camera to scribble frantic notes. She smelled a headline that would sell papers for weeks. "Local boy rides devil horse. Peterson loses $1 million bet." The thought made her grin. Dixie Monroe, owner of the town's diner, nudged her way through the onlookers with a basket of fresh lemonade, forgetting her sales pitch as she caught sight of Cody's small frame jolting against Diablo's back. "Lord above, that boy's mama must be prayin' overtime," she whispered. Meanwhile, in the far shadows where the corral met the barn, Dallas Creed leaned against a fence post, arms crossed. He'd come hoping to buy Diablo cheap, then breed him for rodeos across the South. Now, seeing the impossible unfold, his calculating mind raced. If Cody stayed on, Buck would lose more than money. He'd lose the legend that kept other ranchers in awe. Dallas licked his lips. A tamed Diablo was worth twice what he'd planned to offer. Inside the ring, Cody heard none of this. He heard only Diablo's snorts, felt the beast's muscles quiver beneath him like a live wire. Each buck jolted pain into his thighs and spine, but he clung tighter, pressing his forehead into the horse's whipping mane. He thought of his father's bitter words back home, how Jack Barnes always barked that the world chewed up dreamers and spat them into the dirt. Not today, Cody swore to himself. Today I ride. And when Diablo slowed, sides heaving, eyes wild but no longer furious, a hush fell so deep the Texas wind itself seemed to pause. Cody slid off gently, landing barefoot in the churned-up dust. He didn't raise his fists or shout. He just stood there, dirty and trembling, staring into Diablo's eyes. Around him, men traded shocked stares while Buck Peterson's booming voice cracked for the first time. Somewhere in that stunned silence, $1 million secret began to unravel, and the boy who wasn't meant to matter just changed everything. Silence hung like smoke over the corral as Cody stood, chest heaving, dust coating every inch of his small frame. Diablo, the beast who had shattered grown men's bones, now nudged the boy's shoulder with a rough, breathy snort, as if testing if the frail human really existed. Cassidy June hurried into the ring, ignoring Buck Peterson's shouted protests. She placed a gentle hand on Cody's arm, eyes darting between the exhausted stallion and the boy who had just tamed a living legend. "Cody Barnes," she whispered, her voice shaking, "what did you do to him?" Cody wiped sweat from his eyes, his mouth trembling with words too big to say aloud. "I didn't fight him," he said at last. "I just listened." Around them, the onlookers shifted uneasily. Men who moments ago laughed at him now averted their eyes, ashamed to admit they doubted what they'd just seen with their own two eyes. At the fence, Buck Peterson slammed his palm so hard against the wood that the nearest boards cracked. His $1 million boast had been a game, until it cost him everything. He barked for Sawyer Kane and Wilder Boone to drag Cody out. But Sawyer hesitated, glancing back at Diablo who watched protectively, ears pinned flat if anyone stepped too close. Even Wilder, who once claimed no horse scared him, felt an old fear rise in his gut. Nearby, Dallas Creed saw his moment. He slipped through the crowd, boots crunching over dry hay, stopping inches from Buck. "Seems your show pony ain't so wild anymore," Dallas drawled, voice smooth as poisoned honey. "I'll double my offer for him, now that he's gentle enough for even a boy." Buck turned on him, eyes flashing murder. "Over my dead body, Creed. Diablo stays mine." Rhett Maddox, the deputy, stepped between them, raising both hands like a referee in a bar fight. "You two want to settle this in front of half the county? Sheriff Harris'll have my badge if I let you." But the tension crackled like lightning over dry prairie grass. Folks edged back, sensing fists or worse might fly any second. Meanwhile, Cheyenne Hart scribbled every word, her headline growing bigger by the second. Behind the human chaos, Cody leaned his forehead against Diablo's rough neck, feeling the horse's hot breath fan across his face. He knew Buck wouldn't let this go. He knew a boy like him, poor, father always angry, no fancy lawyer, didn't stand a chance against a man like Peterson. But as Diablo's warm nose brushed his hair, a seed of defiance took root in Cody's heart. He didn't know how yet, but he would protect the horse who, for a few seconds, made him feel like somebody worth believing in. The sun had begun to dip low behind the dusty hills when Cassidy June tugged Cody away from Diablo's side and led him behind the barn, away from Buck Peterson's furious eyes and Dallas Creed's slippery grin. She knelt in front of him, brushing grit from his cheek. "Do you have any idea what you've done, Cody Barnes?" she asked, her voice tight with a fear she couldn't hide. Cody shifted from foot to foot, glancing at Diablo who now paced the corral, calmer but still watchful. I didn't mean no trouble, Miss Cassidy. He didn't want to be angry any more. His words were too simple for the storm brewing around them. Cassidy knew Buck wouldn't forgive this humiliation. And worse, Diablo had just become the most valuable horse in the county, maybe in all of Texas. Inside Buck's ranch house, Sawyer Kane, Rhett Maddox, and Wilder Boone argued in low voices while Buck paced with a whiskey glass clutched so tight his knuckles turned white. "We can't let Creed take him," Buck snarled. "And that boy, he's made me a fool." "A fool?" Wilder, who'd seen men killed for less, spoke cautiously. "You could make him work for you, Buck. Train Diablo for rodeos. Make twice what Creed would pay." But Buck's pride was too raw for reason. He wanted control, not profit. Outside, dusk painted the ranch in bruised purple and gold. Dallas Creed, never one to miss an opportunity, found Cody alone by the fence. He crouched low, voice soft and snake-slick. "Kid, you've got a gift. Folks'll pay good money to watch you ride that beast. You come with me. I'll make you rich enough to buy 10 ranches like your daddy's." Cody shook his head, fear and confusion twisting in his belly. "Diablo ain't for sale." "Neither am I." Dallas' eyes narrowed just enough to show his true teeth. "Careful, boy. Around here, sayin' no to the wrong man can get you and your horse hurt." Meanwhile, Cheyenne Hart huddled over her notes under the glow of her truck's cab light. She'd recorded every shout and threat. Her story would be front-page news by morning. In the corner of her eye, she saw Maisie Bell slip through the gate, her apron still speckled with flour from the diner. Maisie knelt beside Cody, hugging him so tight he could barely breathe. "What were you thinking, Cody? He'll come for you now. Buck Peterson doesn't lose." Under the stars, Diablo stood quiet as a ghost, ears flicking at the wind. Cody pressed his palm to the warm velvet of the horse's nose. He had no lawyer, no money, and no father who'd stand behind him. But tonight he had something no one could buy, a bond no threat could break. Somewhere deep inside, he knew the fight was only beginning, and he would not run. The moon rose cold and bright over the Peterson ranch, casting long shadows across the corrals and empty hayfields. Cody lay awake in the loft of the old barn where Cassidy June insisted he hide for the night. Diablo slept just outside the stall, head down, breathing slow and deep like a guard dog made of muscle and wild spirit. Cody's heartbeat refused to quiet. Every creak of would sounded like Buck's boots or Dallas Creed's low voice slithering through the dark. Inside the big house, Buck Peterson nursed his third glass of whiskey, his rage souring each sip. Wilder Boone sat near the fireplace, hat in his hands. "You're gonna do something stupid, Buck," he warned, eyes locked on the flames. Buck's laugh was mean and sharp. "The boy humiliated me. Creed wants to steal Diablo. I lose either way, unless that boy vanishes and the horse gets wild again." Wilder shifted uncomfortably but didn't argue. He'd seen how power made men careless with right and wrong. Outside the barn, Maisie Bell crept through the dewy grass with a paper bag of cornbread and leftover stew. She slipped inside, nearly dropping the food when Cody popped up from a pile of hay like a ghost. She pressed a finger to his lips. "Hush now. You need strength more than words." They sat cross-legged in the straw, sharing spoonfuls of cold stew while Diablo's ears flicked at every whisper. Maisie's voice trembled when she asked, "You know he'll try to take Diablo back, right? He won't let you keep him." Cody wiped his mouth on his sleeve, staring at Diablo's silhouette against the moonlight. "I know. But I ain't runnin'. I ain't lettin' him hurt Diablo again." His voice broke at the edges, raw with a boy's stubborn hope clashing against a man's world. Maisie squeezed his hand, her eyes shimmering with worry and something deeper, faith in the impossible. "Then you can't stay here, Cody. Tomorrow, someone will come to take you both. Run tonight while you still can." Meanwhile, Cheyenne Hart typed her story in the diner's back booth, oblivious to the late-night coffee burning her tongue. Her fingers flew over the keys. Local boy tames Diablo. Peterson's million-dollar bet backfires. She knew once this hit the morning paper, the whole county would rally behind Cody, or hunt him for the prize he now guarded. Either way, there would be no more hiding. Back in the barn, Cody brushed his palm along Diablo's neck, feeling the warmth and the wild heartbeat that matched his own. "I won't let him break you," he whispered into the horse's mane. Beyond the wooden doors, footsteps crunched the gravel, slow, heavy, and too many to count. Cody's breath caught in his throat. Tonight, he realized, was not about taming Diablo. It was about fighting for him. And he would do it alone if he had to. Cody held his breath as the barn door creaked open, moonlight spilling across the hay-strewn floor. In the doorway stood Sawyer Kane, hat shadowing his eyes, a shotgun cradled casually in his arm. Behind him loomed Rhett Maddox and Zeke Hollis, the youngest ranch hand who shifted from foot to foot, clearly wishing to be anywhere else. Cody didn't move, his body tense beside Diablo's massive flank. The horse raised his head, ears flattening at the scent of trouble. Sawyer stepped forward, boots crunching old straw. "Easy now, Cody," he drawled, voice low, calm, but edged with iron. "Buck don't want no trouble. He just wants what's his." Cody squared his shoulders, fists clenched. "Diablo ain't his anymore. He don't listen to him, he listens to me." Sawyer sighed, glancing back at Rhett, who kept his hand on his holster. Zeke's eyes darted to the barn rafters, like maybe an angel might drop down and stop this mess. Out in the darkness beyond the barn, a faint whisper of wheels on gravel announced more unwelcome guests. Dallas Creed's truck idled near the corral, headlights off but engine rumbling like a hungry wolf. Cassidy June, roused by the noise, sprinted barefoot across the yard, hair flying loose behind her. She burst into the barn, planting herself squarely between Cody and the men. "You boys lost your minds? He's a child. This is kidnapping, plain and simple." Sawyer's jaw tightened. "Cassidy, stand aside. Ain't no need for blood tonight." But Cassidy didn't budge. Her eyes flicked to Cody. "Take Diablo and run, now. Through the back gate. Zeke, help him." Zeke flinched at his name, fear flickering across his young face. Then, with a breath that sounded like a prayer, he stepped to Cody's side. "Go, kid. I'll cover you." Rhett cursed under his breath, knowing the fragile plan was slipping through Sawyer's grip like water through a sieve. Outside, Dallas Creed leaned against his truck hood, watching shadows dance behind the barn windows. Beside him, Wilder Boone muttered, "This ain't right, Creed. He's just a boy." Dallas didn't bother looking at him. "That boy's sittin' on a gold mine that should have been ours. He wants to play cowboy hero? Fine. But he won't outrun us forever." He tapped a long, bony finger on the truck hood in time with the crickets. Inside the barn, Cody swung a rope over Diablo's neck, hands trembling but sure. He locked eyes with Cassidy and Zeke, gratitude and terror wrestling inside him. Diablo snorted once, like he knew freedom was a breath away or a bullet deep in the dark. With a last glance at the men frozen in indecision, Cody tugged the rope and whispered, "Let's go, boy." As hooves thudded into the night, the fragile safety of the barn fell behind them, leaving only the ruthless Texas prairie and the promise that running was just the beginning. Cody's breath burned his lungs as he led Diablo through the back gate, Zeke's whispered urgings fading behind him. The open prairie beyond Buck Peterson's ranch stretched out like an ocean of shadows and brittle grass. Above them, the moon watched, cold and indifferent, as boy and beast fled deeper into nowhere. Diablo moved lightly, head low, ears flicking at every rustle in the brush. He trusted Cody now, and that trust was worth more than the $1 million snapping at their heels. Back in the barnyard, Cassidy June shouted down Sawyer Kane and Rhett Maddox, her fury louder than any gun they might have drawn. Zeke stood beside her, chest heaving, as if bracing for the blow that might come from Buck's wrath. Dallas Creed, realizing his prize had slipped through greedy fingers, spat into the dirt and climbed back into his truck. "Find him," he snarled at Wilder Boone, who climbed in beside him with a grim shake of his head. Somewhere deep down, Wilder knew chasing a boy like prey would damn him forever, but money had a way of silencing a man's better angels. On the lonely back road, Cody dared to look behind only once. No headlights yet. No hooves pounding behind him. Just wind and Diablo's steady warmth at his side. He whispered broken promises into the horse's ear. "Just keep going, boy. Just a little farther. Mama used to say there's always good folks somewhere." He pictured Mary Barnes humming lullabies in a kitchen that smelled of cornbread, her soft hands brushing his hair from his eyes. That memory kept his legs moving when his body begged to stop. A few miles away, under the flicker of a single gas station light, Maisie Bell waited with a battered pickup, engine humming low. She'd read Cheyenne Hart's story before the ink dried and knew exactly where Cody would run. When his shadow stumbled into the pale circle of light, she flew from the cab, tears streaking dust from her cheeks. "Get in, Cody. We don't have much time." Diablo pawed the concrete, nostrils wide, but Maisie grabbed a sugar cube from her pocket and pressed it into his muzzle. "Easy, big fella. You're safe with me." Cheyenne, meanwhile, dialed her editor from the diner's payphone, voice sharp and urgent. "Double the print run. This isn't just a local story anymore. Folks are gonna pick sides. A poor boy protecting a wild horse from men with money and guns? That's America, whether they admit it or not." She slammed the phone back in place, heart pounding. She'd always chased headlines, but tonight she chased the truth, no matter whose power she threatened. As Maisie floored the gas pedal, Cody huddled against Diablo's side in the truck bed, fingers buried in the horse's mane. The highway unspooled beneath them like a dark river, each mile a gamble they couldn't afford to lose. Somewhere behind them, headlights flared to life, proof that Buck Peterson and Dallas Creed weren't done hunting. And somewhere deep inside Cody, a fire lit by a wild stallion burned hotter than ever. "I will not lose him. Not now. Not ever." The old pickup rattled down a back road that only lifelong locals remembered. Maisie Bell clenched the wheel so hard her knuckles blanched white. Every few miles, she flicked the headlights off, coasting in darkness to throw off any tail. In the truck bed, Cody lay curled against Diablo's warm side, blanket draped over both boy and horse. Diablo snorted softly, as if sensing each bump and whisper of danger in the night. "Where are we going?" Cody asked when Maisie finally spoke over the engine's hum. She glanced in the mirror, catching his pale face framed by starlight. "Cassidy's uncle owns an abandoned hunting cabin up near Rhiannon Lee's old homestead. Nobody but deer and ghosts go there now. We'll hide you and Diablo there until we figure out how to fix this mess." Her words were steady, but fear bled through every syllable. She was gambling her job, her future, maybe her life, just to keep one boy and his horse safe. Back at Buck Peterson's ranch, the main house blazed with light as men barked orders and slammed doors. Sawyer Kane cursed under his breath while Rhett Maddox tried to calm Buck's rage with reason that fell on deaf ears. Dallas Creed, meanwhile, stood by the fireplace, boots muddy and grin gone. "You're losing him, Buck. Boy's got half the county rooting for him now. Papers are calling him the Mustang Kid." Buck hurled his empty glass into the hearth, shards scattering like broken promises. "Find him, or I'll bury both you and that damn horse." While they argued, Cheyenne Hart's report hit every porch in Midland County with the sunrise. Local boy becomes folk hero. Cody Barnes and Diablo escape greed and grit. By mid-morning, old ranchers, school kids, and dusty mechanics all had an opinion. Some blamed Buck for cruelty. Others called Cody a thief. But most, especially those who'd once been poor and powerless, called him brave. In a world that often crushed little dreams, this one boy dared to keep his alive. At the crack of dawn, Maisie pulled the pickup under a canopy of gnarled oaks behind the hunting cabin. Cassidy, June, and Rhiannon Lee were already there, oil lamps glowing through cracked windows. Rhiannon hugged Cody tight before he could say a word, murmuring, "You did good, little cousin. Now hush, we'll handle the rest." Cassidy checked Diablo's legs and flanks, her hands gentle but eyes sharp for any sign of injury. "He's tired, but he's sound. You both need rest more than anything." Inside the cabin, Cody sank onto an old cot, exhaustion pressing him down like stones in his pockets. Outside the cracked door, Diablo whinnied softly, his voice a promise that he wasn't going anywhere. Maisie, Cassidy, and Rhiannon huddled in the kitchen, planning, arguing in hushed voices. They all knew Buck Peterson wouldn't stop. Dallas Creed wouldn't forgive. But in that tiny cabin, tucked deep in the Texas hills, Cody finally let sleep claim him, knowing for one fleeting heartbeat he wasn't alone in this fight. Morning in the Texas hills arrived slow and misty, wrapping the old hunting cabin in a hush that made even Diablo's breathing sound louder than it should. Cody woke to the smell of fresh coffee and the low murmur of voices arguing just beyond the crooked bedroom door. He pushed himself up, wincing at the ache in his back and thighs, bruises from Diablo's first buck and the long, bone-rattling ride to freedom. In the kitchen, Cassidy June paced the creaking floorboards while Rhiannon Lee leaned against the counter, arms folded tight across her chest. Maisie Bell, eyes rimmed red from no sleep, sat at the table, scribbling notes on the back of a feed store receipt. "It's only a matter of time before Buck finds this place," Cassidy snapped. "And when he does, he won't knock. He'll take the horse by force, and Cody too if he has to." Outside, Diablo stood tied loosely to an old post, cropping grass as if the world beyond the clearing didn't exist. But every so often, his ears flicked back toward the door, sensing the storm brewing inside. Cody pushed through the screen, pressed his cheek against the horse's neck, and whispered, "I'm sorry, boy. I didn't mean for it to get this big." Diablo nudged him hard enough to nearly knock him over, as if reminding him that wild hearts don't bend for fear. Back inside, the conversation turned to whispers when Rhiannon spotted Cody in the doorway. "We can run farther," she offered, voice tight but soft. "There's a ranch near Cheyenne Hart's cousin in Oklahoma. Folks there might hide you both until the lawyers can fight Buck in court." Maisie shook her head, tears threatening again. "Running won't stop them. It'll just chase us forever. Buck's pride won't heal till he owns Diablo again, or sees him dead." Just then, the rumble of engines echoed up the dirt road, vibrating through the floorboards. Cassidy's hand froze on her coffee mug. Outside, Diablo lifted his head, eyes pinning the tree line. "Too late," Maisie whispered, voice breaking. They heard doors slam, boots crunch leaves. Sawyer Kane's deep drawl floated through the mist. "Don't make this harder than it has to be, Miss June. Bring out the boy and the horse." Cody's pulse thudded so hard he thought his ribs might crack. He looked at his circle of accidental protectors, 3 women braver than any ranch hand Buck paid to break bones. For a heartbeat, fear nearly drowned him. But when Diablo stomped the ground and snorted so loud it rattled the window glass, courage rose like fire in Cody's chest. He stepped forward, voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "No more running. This ends today. If Buck wants Diablo, he'll have to come through me first." Boots crunched closer through the clearing as Sawyer Kane, Rhett Maddox, and Wilder Boone stepped from the tree line, shotguns resting in the crooks of their arms. Behind them, Buck Peterson emerged like a storm cloud wearing a man's skin, eyes locked on Diablo grazing calm as a Sunday prayer. Cassidy June planted herself on the cabin porch, Maisie Bell and Rhiannon Lee flanking her like guardians at a church door. Buck's voice dripped poison and false calm. "Cassidy, step aside. This ends now. That boy stole my horse and made a fool of me in front of half of Texas. I'm taking back what's mine, one way or another. Cassidy's chin lifted. You'd have to shoot me first, Buck. And even then, Diablo won't follow you. Her words trembled but held. Maisie squeezed her hand, breath fogging in the cold dawn air. Inside the circle of guns and courage, Cody pressed his forehead to Diablo's. He spoke so low only the horse heard. You saved me once, boy. Now it's my turn. He turned, facing Buck square. You made a bet. The whole county heard it. Diablo's mine now. You can't scare that truth away. Buck barked a laugh that didn't reach his eyes. You think a dirt-poor ranch boy and a bunch of meddling women can stand up to me? I own this land, every fence, every inch of dirt. But behind Buck, trucks rumbled down the rutted road, dozens of them. Old pickups, battered sedans, and beat-up farm trucks with townsfolk hanging from windows and beds. Cheyenne Hart stepped out first, waving her camera high. Her story had spread like wildfire. What Buck thought was private had become everyone's business. We're all watching, Buck, she shouted. You shoot that boy or that horse, everyone in Texas will know you for what you are. Sawyer Kane's shotgun dipped. Wilder Boone stepped back, eyes shifting to the ground. Rhett Maddox cleared his throat, voice tired but firm. Ain't worth blood, Buck. Let it go. Buck's face went purple with fury, but he saw the circle tightening. Friends, neighbors, strangers all siding with a boy and his horse. For the first time in his life, Buck Peterson understood he couldn't buy loyalty that was freely given to someone braver. Cody slipped his hand along Diablo's mane and spoke for all to hear. This horse is free now. Same as me. If you want to stop us, you'll have to stop everyone standing here today. Diablo stamped the ground, snorting a challenge that echoed through the trees. Buck's shoulders sagged under the weight of pride he could no longer hold. He turned away, spitting curses at the dirt. As the sun broke through the last mist, Diablo tossed his head high, Cody's fingers tangled in his mane. Around them, friends and strangers cheered, laughter and tears mingling in the crisp morning air. For the first time in his short, hard life, Cody Barnes wasn't just the poor boy from nowhere. He was the Mustang Kid who proved even the wildest things can find freedom when someone believes enough to fight for it.